So the Guardian came out with an investigative piece about how four members of one family were shot and killed by the IDF, and how it shows a highlight or it highlights the pattern in which Israeli troops target unarmed civilians. And I haven't read this article from the Guardian yet, and um, I wanted to read it on camera because I mean, while it's not live, I don't know. It just it's tough, man. It's so tough reading this stuff. And I know the immense privilege it is to say that it's tough to read something compared to the people in Gaza who have to live this. But the if your humanity doesn't take doesn't start hurting after reading this stuff, and day after day after day of seeing mutilated Palestinian babies and men and women and children. I mean, if that hasn't affected you, then you're essentially a sociopath. Let's be real. In the immortal words of Mehdi Hassan, you are a sociopath if this doesn't affect you in any way, and if you support it. Daniel Robb shows no hesitation as he watches footage of 19-year-old Salem Dogmosh crumpling to the ground beside his brother in a street in northern Gaza. That was my first elimination, he says. The video, shot by a drone, lasts just a few seconds. The Palestinian teenager appears to be unarmed when he is shot in the head. That was my first elimination, he says. Says so nonchalantly, like it's no big deal. Ridiculous. Rob, a former varsity basketball player from Chicago suburb, who became an Israeli sniper, concedes that he knew that. He says he shot Salem simply because he tried to retrieve the body of his beloved older brother Mohammed. It's hard for me to understand why he did that, and it also doesn't really interest me, Rob said in a video interview posted on X. I mean, what was so important about the corpse? These sociopaths are walking among us. He's a varsity basketball player from Chicago, or was a former varsity basketball player. How many of these sociopaths who have decided that they hate Muslims enough that they're going to go to Gaza and kill a bunch of children and then come back and shop in Loblaws or go grocery shopping in there in front of you in the line, and like they were 2 months ago were in a war zone in a concentration camp, sniping kids because they had the audacity to try and retrieve a body of one of their beloved family members. Yeah, I don't understand why he did that. I mean, what was so important about the corpse? It was his brother that you just shot, who was unarmed. Obviously, you don't care about humans. Obviously, you don't have a heart. Obviously, you don't have a soul if you're able to do this. But these people do, and they care about their loved ones. A 5-month investigation by The Guardian, Arab reporters for investigative journalism, and paper trail media, Der Spiegel, and ZDF, has identified 6 people shot by Israeli snipers on 22nd November 2023. And through interviews with survivors, witnesses, and relatives, reviews of death certificates, medical records, and geolocated images, we revealed how a family from Gaza City's Tal Al Hawa neighborhood was torn apart in a few hours by men who grew up in Naperville, Illinois, and Munich, Germany. Israeli snipers killed 4 members of the Dogmosh family that day and injured 2 others. Their story illuminates patterns of killing by Israeli troops who have repeatedly treated unarmed men between 18 and 40 in Gaza as targets. That's another thing. In Gaza, there are invisible imaginary lines that only IDF snipers know, that once crossed, you're in a killing zone. It becomes a killing field. But nobody knows. And first off, they don't publish where the killing zones are. They do publish, like, this is not a safe area, this is a humanitarian zone. But then they bomb the humanitarian zones anyway, so that doesn't really matter. And another thing, half of these people don't have connection to internet anymore because it's cut off. So when you start telling people that this is a killing zone and you post it on Twitter and they don't see it because you've cut off internet, I mean, it's I have no words. I legitimately have no words. The mass slaughter of tens of thousands of civilians in one factor cited by scholars, lawyers. Sorry, the mass slaughter of tens of thousands of civilians is one factor cited by scholars, lawyers, and rights groups who say Israel is committing genocide. They're thinking, oh, I don't think I'll get shot because I'm wearing civilian clothes and I'm not carrying a weapon and all that. But they were wrong, said Rob, who majored in biology at the University of Illinois before joining the IDF. That's what you have snipers for. Yeah, you have snipers to kill civilians. I mean, the issue is anyone between the ages of 18 and 40, and that is a male. And I've seen reports of it being as young as 15 and up. If you are a Palestinian age 15 or older, you are considered a military target. Especially if you cross these imaginary lines that nobody knows but the IDF snipers. That's genocide. That's collective punishment, which is a war crime, but it's also genocide. Because you are systemically trying to ruin, in whole or in part, in this scenario, in part, a population. You are trying to destroy a part of the population, and that is males 15 and older that are Palestinian. After Salim was shot, his father, Muntasir, 51, rushed to the site and tried to collect his son's bodies for burial. Wow, I cannot read. After Salim was shot, his father, Muntasir, 51, rushed to the site and tried to collect his son's bodies for burial, but was also fatally injured by a sniper. The need for a dignified funeral for loved ones is a core human instinct, protected in law and explored in art for millennia. It is an emotional heart. It is the emotional heart of Homer's Iliad, one of the earliest surviving works of literature. It's also extremely important for Muslims to have a proper funeral and burial for your loved ones. And from what I understand, for Christians as well. So I'm assuming this is a Muslim family, just because the names are Salim and Muntasir. But I mean, it is they are an Arab family. They could be Christians. Well, the name was Muhammad, so I guess no. The one brother was Muhammad, so they are Muslim. It's extremely important to them, and when you are facing such grim reality like genocide, there are very few things that give you comfort, and faith is one of them. You see it all the time. People who get sick, and they start to become, I wouldn't say more religious in a sense, but they become more in tune with their faith because it gives them comfort. And I'm not here to poo-poo that. I'm not here to yuck their yum, right? If it brings them comfort, it brings them comfort. When it comes to genocide, there's very few things that can. I'm from what I would assume. I've never undergone genocide, obviously. Faith is one of them. And even that is robbed from them. We know that places of worship, rather, are protected under international law. Yet every single mosque is being bombed. Every single church is being bombed in Gaza. But on that day, Rob treated love and grief as cause to kill. They just kept on coming to try and take these bodies, he said. The video of Salim's killing and footage of other attacks on unarmed Palestinians was posted online 5 months after his death, part of a montage made by a soldier called Shalom Gilbert to celebrate a deployment in Gaza. To celebrate a deployment in Gaza, he posted a video of him sniping a bunch of civilians. These people are depraved. And you're going to call me anti-Semitic because they happen to be Jewish. I'm not saying it because they're Jewish. I'm saying because they're killing civilians. They could be Muslim. I would call them out. Because what they're doing is wrong. What they're doing is a crime against humanity. Rob later said he. Oh my God. Rob later said he and another sniper carried out 3 of those killings in an interview carried out under deceptive circumstances by a team led by the Palestinian journalist and activist Yunus Dirawi. Man, Yunus Dirawi has been on fire lately. Attaboy. Rob was approached by a Hebrew speaker who claimed he wanted to write about the squad's experiences and to commemorate fallen soldiers. Dirawi said, Rob was promised anonymity, but Tirawi posted extracts of the interview online, justifying the decision by saying it was in the public interest, given the scale of civilian killings. Exactly. Listen, journalistic integrity is important, right? For example, if I were to interview someone, let's say a Charlie Kirk supporter or something, and I told them that it would be off the record or that I would protect their anonymity, it has to be done, whether you agree with them or not. You have to, you have to uphold what you said. But when it comes to this, genocide and a murder of civilians, I'm sorry. I don't think any of this affects the integrity of the journalist. Actually, I think they deserve an award for being able to get something so damning by deceiving these what are essentially war criminals. Not essentially war criminals; they are war criminals. Rob did not name his partner, who was later identified from photos as Daniel Grates. Rob and Grates did not respond to requests for comment on the shooting sent over several months by journalists working on the investigation. The Dogmash family's tragedy unfolded on a short stretch of Monir Al Rayas Street in Gaza City, near the Barcelona Garden Park. So that's the Gaza Jordanian Field Hospital. That's a sniper location, and that's where the kids, where the family was sniped and killed. So from here and then boom, boom. You can't even walk the streets of your bombed up city without getting sniped by war criminals. Honestly, I can't believe America is supporting this. But why can't I believe it? Of course I should believe it. Obama and Trump, they've been droning Pakistan, northern Pakistan for so long. And it's funny because Trump actually stopped droning Pakistan for a while. Why? Because it was costing too much money. The dude cared more about taking taxpayer funds and putting it into his own pocket than spending it on droning weddings in Pakistan. But that's neither here nor there. I'll make another video about the Pakistan situation. But remember, I mean, this guy is American. He's not from the Middle East. He's going to try and tell you he is. He's not from the Middle East. He's from Illinois. And he's over there in these people's lands sniping them. What right does he have to do that? Tell me that is not terrorism. What these guys are doing is not terrorism. It is absolutely terrorism. Residents knew Israeli forces were in the area, but on the morning of 22nd November 2023, the sound of someone chopping wood in the street reassured locals there wasn't active combat in the area. It was a false sense of security. When Mohammed Dagmosh set off towards the park with a cousin, Rob and Grates were already in place. The men were part of a sniper team. The men, that's generous. The demons were part of a sniper team whose members called themselves Refame, or Ghost. They had no connection to an elite official special forces unit, also known as Refame. Many members of the unit were dual nationals, and photos and videos of their operations posted online have helped human rights organizations alert prosecutors in Belgium and France to suspected war crimes by unit members. Okay. Rob and Grace's location have been traced from photos and videos taken by Israeli soldiers showing the two snipers aiming their weapons through a window and a hole in a wall. Using satellite imagery, the investigative team geolocated that site to a 6-story building about 400 meters from the killings. The position gave a clear view of Munir Al Rayas Street. A Palestinian journalist working on the investigation visited the buildings and found further evidence of the ghost sniper's presence. Graffiti showing the number 9 with devil's horns and a tail. The squad's an unofficial logo. Yeah, of course it has devil horns. They are demons after all. I'm not calling them, and I want to be very clear, I'm calling them demons for their actions, not for being Jewish, right? Yeah, there we go. The reporter, who also interviewed the Dagmash family, asked not to be named because Israel has killed at least 189 journalists in Gaza. Yeah, exactly. And this is why they're killing them. So stories like this don't come out. Imagine if 189 journalists in Gaza and the countless amazing journalists that were able to leave Gaza were able to stay under safety because Israel decided, for whatever reason, finally to respect international law and wasn't murdering journalists. Imagine the stories that would be coming out. Imagine. We were able to get this, thank God. But that's after they've murdered. It's actually more than 200 journalists, but I guess at the time of this writing, it was 189 journalists. Muhammad, who was 26 when he was killed, had a high school diploma and supported the family by gathering waste metal and plastic for resale. Salim had dropped out after 10th grade and joined him. Faiza Dogmosh recognized her two sons, Salim's olive green shirt, Muhammad's black clothes, when she was shown Gilbert's footage. She cried uncontrollably as she watched, 18 months after her boys were killed. I can't imagine that. Imagine watching your son sniped for no reason other than the fact that he was born a Palestinian in Palestine. Inna lillahi wa inna. Muhammad, who loved chicken wings and helped his mother knead dough for family bread each day, was the first to head out. He picked up his cousin Yusuf at his home nearby, and the two men headed out. His last moments may have been filmed by Israeli forces. Gilbert's montage included two grainy videos of targeted killings. Yusuf says he recognizes himself walking with his hands in his pockets beside Muhammad, his lifelong friend. So that's Yusuf, and that's Muhammad before he gets sniped. Rob describes that video as Great's second elimination. In their first days of Tal al Hawa, Greats, who grew up in Munich, can be seen in Gilbert's video, and his identity was confirmed by facial recognition technology in interviews with former classmates. Aspects of the video raise questions about whether it shows the shooting, however. Weapons experts who examined it were divided over whether a projectile visible in several frames was a bullet from a sniper rifle. The images show a man hit in the back, while Yusuf says Muhammad was shot from the front. But if what Robert and Muhammad's relatives say is true, Grace appears to have killed Muhammad because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Neither man was carrying a weapon. In November 2023, Israeli forces operating in the area decided that that section of Munir al-Raya Street was off limits to civilians without notifying Palestinians. Exactly. That's my point. There's these invisible borders without telling Palestinians. This street, and this street are now killing zones, but they don't tell the Palestinians. The IDF knows, Palestinians don't know. So when Palestinians enter that street, boom, they're sniped. Imagine a son goes out looking for food for his kid, for his family, steps onto the wrong street, and boom, bullet in the head. And then they'll lie, talking about oh, he was Hamas. No evidence. They don't have any weapons. They're just walking to a park. But they're Hamas, so they shoot them. Rob described it as a combat zone where any man of military age was marked for death. Exactly. Establishing an invisible security perimeter, then shooting civilians who cross it has become common practice in Gaza, Israeli soldiers have testified. When asked how his squad decided whether to shoot unarmed Palestinians, Rob said, "It's a question of distance. There is a line that we define. They don't know where this line is, but we do." That's what I've been saying this whole video. And there you go. Right, the words right from the devil's mouth. The Fraunhofer Institute for Secure Information Technology examined the videos containing the most critical statements and found no indication to suggest the content had been altered. After Muhammad was killed, Yusuf ran to tell his brothers, inadvertently sealing Salim's fate. Rob describes on camera how he shot the teenager when he came to collect Muhammad's body. The recovery of dead bodies is protected under international law. Oh yeah, like Israel cares about international law. That ship sailed 76 years ago. And so when people ask me, does Israel have a right to exist? Not in this situation, not like this. And honestly, no, they're just a nation. No nation has a right to exist. People have a right to exist. So if you tell me, do Jewish people have a right to exist? The answer is yes, of course. But there's literally no words to say anymore, man. Like what can you say? The recovery of dead bodies is protected under international law. The Israeli military's own regulations also stipulate that people collecting bodies are not legitimate targets, according to former soldiers and Asa Kashir, who co-authored the Israeli Defense Forces ethics code. Look, the ethics code was written for the global population to let people know that, hey, look, we have a code of ethics. They never follow it. Day in and day out, we see war crimes. The ambulance is being bombed. Hind Rajab, 355 bullets into that 5-year-old girl. Don't tell me about this code of ethics. They have no code of ethics. They've written a code of ethics to show America, like, hey, we're good people. Because we have a code of ethics. Do you follow the code of ethics? Well, no. But, I mean, we're not fighting humans. We're fighting human animals. A direct quote of Yoav Gallant, by the way. Then defense minister. I believe defense minister. I don't even remember anymore. Piece of shit. If you see someone recovering a body or helping a wounded person, that's a rescue operation and should be respected, Kashir said. Someone like that should not be shot. The next victim was Salim and Muhammad's father, Muntasir. My boys, was all he could say when he saw them lying dead in the street. He tried to approach him and was shot. Then snipers targeted cousin Khalil, who raced to help Muntasir. I had taken about 8 to 10 steps carrying him when I was shot, and it felt like my arm was blown off, said Khalil, who managed to stagger out of range before losing consciousness. The two men were taken to hospital, but Muntasir died the next day. The family decided they could not risk more loss, and the brothers' bodies were left in the street until ceasefire began on 24th of November. A ceasefire that Israel continued bombing during, by the way. I'm not lying. They continued to bomb and shoot artillery shells all throughout that ceasefire in November. Only one side ever follows the ceasefire when it comes to Israel, and it's never Israel. And then, if Hamas or Hezbollah, and I'm on record talking about how Hezbollah are the spawn of the devil. I do not support Hezbollah one bit, especially for what they've done in Syria. But let me be clear: when there is a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel, only Hezbollah is the one who adheres to it. Of that, we know. Now, I might not like Hezbollah, but they follow ceasefire deals. The other side, Israel, doesn't. Anyone who came close got shot, said Khalil. He still struggles with the damage from the bullets that struck his torso, just below his armpit. With such force, he initially thought his arm had been severed. If I walk a little, I get tired. If I work, I get tired. There is no video of his shooting, but Rob described someone from his squad hitting a Palestinian near the brothers' bodies, causing a severe arm injury. It really knocked away his arm, and we assumed he wouldn't survive, he said. The attacks match a pattern described by a former Israeli reservist who told The Guardian that soldiers he served with in Gaza repeatedly shot unarmed Palestinians trying to collect bodies. It's something I saw myself, he said, adding that these killings often came after a first unarmed individual was targeted for crossing an invisible security perimeter. Once he had been declared an enemy before he has been shot, then the assumption is that everyone going to collect him is his co-conspirator, added the former reservist, who refused to return to Gaza on the grounds that the war had become immoral. You shouldn't have gotten in the first place, but okay. I mean, we like to see growth, I guess. It's hard for me to. Once he has been declared an enemy before he has been shot, he was declared an enemy as soon as he was born a Palestinian. Okay? And the assumption is everyone going to collect him as a co-conspirator. What code of ethics? Don't talk to me about a code of ethics if this is what they're doing. They're doing something that is protected under international law. They're doing something that is absolutely fine, which is existing. And they're shot for it. And then they practice something protected under international law, which is retrieving the dead body. And they're shot as well. And we've got people admitting that they do it repeatedly. Tell me how this is not genocide. Tell me how this is not war crimes. Muhammad Salim and Muntasir were not the only members of their wider family shot near Barcelona Garden that November day. Muhammad Farid, 47, a distant cousin of the Dugmosh brothers, lived on Munir Al Rayas Street. He had evacuated his family to a less exposed building earlier in November, but wanted to check if their home had been damaged. Walking back, he bumped into another cousin, Jamal, finishing a similar errand, and they continued together. As they reached the corner of Ismail Street, a few meters from his home, Farid was shot. Jamal's wife, Amal, watched in horror as Farid crumpled to the ground, and her own husband raced for cover. In the Gilbert video, there is a third clip showing a killing, which Rob also identifies as the work of his partner, Grates. Can't even visit your own damn home, while these demons are squatting in them to kill innocent Palestinians. So every time you see a student protesting, this is what they're protesting. And yet, the government, and not just Trump, dear liberals, not just Trump, Biden also sent their police forces after these students. And these students suffered for standing up against this. So don't come at me and tell me that Biden was great. This all happened while Biden was president, by the way. And Biden had no red lines. And so when you come at me when I go after Kamala Harris for not breaking with Biden, read this article again. Read this article again. And then come at me again. Explain to me why I should have supported, or why anyone should have supported a government that was complicit, and not only complicit, but actively supported this. Footage shows two men walking away from the camera down a street filled with rubble. Neither appears to be carrying a weapon. A shot rings out. One man falls to the ground. The other scrambles to get out of the line of fire. Not only do they not have a weapon, they're walking away from them, walking away from their position. So they can't even argue like, oh, we were afraid for our life that they were coming on our position, which maybe they would have argued with the other ones. They can't even argue on this one. They're walking away to their own homes, and they shot him. Witnesses, including Farid's immediate family and his cousin Jamal, identified the victim as Farid, citing his distinctive do-rag style head covering. He was taken to hospital but declared dead within half an hour. Rob says Israeli snipers shot 8 people in 2 days near the Barcelona Garden Park. 6 of them were most likely from the Dugmosh family. Muhammad bin Salim, their father Muntasir, and Muhammad Farid were killed, and 2 cousins were injured. There were also 2 unidentified bodies in the area at the time, witnesses and survivors say. In total, Rob says his team had killed 105 people by the time his deployment in Gaza ended. That's really impressive, he said of the toll. Impressive. That's really this demon is probably walking around the streets of Illinois, shopping, playing basketball, eating out, You know, every day. And yet he's got 105 lives on his bloody, bloody hands. This man is the epitome of garbage. I have a lot of words. But for the sake of my family who might watch this video, I'm not going to use the language that I normally use. Actually, no, that's not right. I'm not going to use the language I don't normally use, but want to use when this comes to this. The Israeli military did not respond to specific questions about the killings of the Dagmash family or rules of engagement, including the shooting of civilians recovering bodies. Oh, really? They didn't respond to specific questions. Don't worry. They're going to open an investigation, and they're going to clear themselves of all wrongdoing. And when we asked for independent journalists and independent investigations to happen, they'll be like, no, we can't let that happen for their safety. And they're right. They can't allow it for their safety because those investigators would be civilians, and that's the bread and butter of what these IDF snipers like to shoot, civilians. A spokesman said its forces operated in strict accordance with its rules of engagement and international law, taking feasible precautions to mitigate civilian harm. Oh, get over yourselves, you absolute lying scum. International law protects unarmed individuals and the collection of bodies. The shootings on Munir al-Raya's street appear to violate that, experts said. The available evidence points to a war crime, said Tom Dannenbaum, a professor of international law at Stanford Law School. Nearly 2 years after the shootings, surviving Dagmash family members have more hope in divine justice than human courts. Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. When you're going through such hardship, faith, and the global world, the entire world has let you down, faith is what you turn to. Whether you believe it or not, you cannot blame them for turning to their faith because that's all they have. They understand that once they pass away, there will be justice, there will be divine justice, and not justice from the human courts, because that's not going to happen. If Israel is ever held to account for this genocide, my estimation is more than half of the Gazans will have been killed by then. They won't see justice in this world. So, and they know that. So how can they not turn to their faith? And then you have people like Laura Loomer out here trying to use the fact that they're becoming more in tune or in connected to their faith as Muslims as a reason for them to be genocided, as a reason or as a justification for them to be genocided. Because America and the global West in general has worked hard with their media apparatuses to manufacture consent and manufacture the idea that Muslims are terrorists. Since I can remember, we've been the bad guys. You know? And it's for precisely reasons like this. When our people are being genocided, most of the world won't care. Oh, don't get me wrong. I know mostly leftists absolutely care. All across the globe. And I'm sure normies are appalled by this when they read this. But they're not going to take any actual action. They'll still buy Reebok. They'll still go to Starbucks. They'll still buy Coca-Cola. They won't boycott. That's too much work. Only leftists really are ready to do that. And of course Muslims. But Muslims have been on this since forever. It's something we learn. So many of the genocides happening right now are against Muslims. The Uyghur genocide, Muslims. In Burma, the Rohingya, Muslims. In Sudan, Muslims. Mind you, it's Muslims genociding non-Arab Muslims, so there's that, but again, Muslims. and nobody's taking a step to help them. Palestine, Muslims and Christians being genocided, and nobody's taking concrete steps to help them. Faiza remembers standing by her house when they brought the bodies of her 2 sons to her. Of Rob, she says, even if I forgive him, God will not. Exactly. Even if I forgive him. The absolute strength of this woman to even mention that there is a however minute, there is a chance that she forgives these absolute ghouls who murdered her family. The strength of this woman, man. The strength of these Palestinians. I mean, you see these right-wing podcast bros sitting around talking into a microphone about how it is to be a man and how to be an alpha male and blah blah blah. And listen, I know the irony. I see that I'm speaking to a microphone now as well, but I'm not talking about being an alpha male. These losers don't have the courage in their they will never see nor have the courage in their entire lives that a Palestinian has in their pinky toe. I'm not going to edit this video. There's no point in editing this video. I do want to mention one more thing. Let me just bring it up. This isn't going to be good because I'll be bringing it up. Never mind. I can't find the article. I'll make another video about it, and it's about the fact that there is a whole unit in the IDF that is meant to put weapons on the dead bodies of civilians that they kill, so that they can afterwards say that, hey man, look, he was holding a gun. It doesn't seem like they're operating in Gaza right now, and I mean they probably couldn't get away with it with all the cameras around, but. Yeah, I mean, what is there to be said? I mean, everything that needs to be said has been said, and yet the world is silent. The mechanisms in power are doing nothing to stop this. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging in there if you did. I doubt this gets too many views, but thanks for watching. Thanks for thanks for staying. And if you want more, this was obviously by the Guardian. I did not write this. I do not have the capacity, nor does Ali Imran or anyone else who writes for the Tungsten Wire. We do not have the financial capacity to do investigative journalism like this. Nor do we have the reach for such an important message to get out. But if you want to read some opinion pieces that we write, I just wrote an op-ed on a response. So I made a Charlie Kirk video, and I made a response to the criticism I was getting from Charlie Kirk fans. And now I realize that I shouldn't have written the response because these idiots obviously can't read. I should probably make a video responding to them, but why give them the satisfaction of that? But anyways, yeah, please go to the tungstenwire.com. I'll probably put it in the, what is it called? The description. And if you want, please subscribe. It's free to do. And thank you for joining me, and peace be upon you.